Most people don't want your advice. They really don't. Most people don't want to be changed. They don't want to be argued. And in most cases, if I argue with you and I give you all the best statistics ever known to man, what's the probability of you going, oh, you know what, Kipp, you're right. I'm wrong. I'm going to change my mind. No. What do? You double down and you argue. Why? Because you need to protect your ego. You know what causes change is autonomy, agency, and freedom. Them deciding on their terms that this I need to or I want to make a change. So how is it? How is it that I create opportunity for others to choose? You model it. You model it damn well.
This is the Take a Step podcast, where we help faith-driven young men reject complacency and take purposeful action every day. My name's Josh Johnston. Let's take a step. Welcome back to the Take a Step podcast. I am joined today by Kipp Sorensen. Kipp, it's an honor to have you on the show. I'm pumped up for it. How are we feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I mean, it is a Monday. We are recording this on a Monday. So, it's true. Sometimes Mondays are a little chaotic, but I'm excited. I mean, there's always power in having the right conversations about the right things. And what you're doing in this podcast, and I'm sure the conversation we're going to have is one that will worst case edify each other. And then anybody listening, hopefully they get the same.
Yeah, definitely. No, I've been anticipating this conversation for a while because I've been listening to you and Ryan Mickler on the Order of Man podcast for the last couple of years, and just have so much respect for what you guys do, and definitely want to dive into a lot of the similar mindsets that I think we share. I'd love to open it up to you just to kind of kick things off, to just introduce yourself however you think it makes sense.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, it's always funny, like introductions. In fact, when I ask people what they do for work, it's usually followed up with the question, not that it defines you, right? Because I think we have a tendency sometimes to get so wrapped up into our titles and labels that we lose our humanity in understanding someone. But with that said, you're right. I'll kind of give a little bit of an intro. So I'm currently what you call a chief people officer, which is an executive for a technology consulting firm based in Salt Lake City, Utah. I have been in the tech space my entire career. In fact, I have 20 plus years of technology consulting, ran my own business for roughly about 12 to 15 years, had to exit, join my current employer, where I'm now over people and culture, which would include kind of all things performance management, leadership development, culture, what we're doing from a cultural perspective, and those kind of things. And because of that, I have a natural interest, right, around leadership development. In fact, I assist Ryan in the Iron Council around our leadership program. I do the same thing, obviously, here, and I do leadership coaching and executive coaching outside of both Order Man and my day job. Like you mentioned, Order Man podcast, I'm going on 8 years, believe it or not. So it'll be 8 years. We started the AMA roughly, I think, this September. And so we're going to be 8 years in. And then another tidbit that people seem to resonate with is, so I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I've been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 16, 17 years. So a really long time. And it has played a pivotal part in how I show up, not just at home, but in the workplace. A lot of the principles that I teach around leadership are kind of rooted in a lot of those lessons that I've learned on the mats.
Hey guys, we'll jump right back into the conversation, but I want to give y'all a quick look into MMP Customs. They make all of the Take a Step apparel, and they are the official sponsor of the Take a Step podcast. Check them out.
Hey guys, I'm Nathan Mooney, co-owner of MMP Customs. We are a custom merchandise company specializing in screen printing and embroidery. If you're a business, band, school, or any other type of organization that needs custom merchandise, MMP Customs is the place. Whether you have a big apparel need for an event or need to outfit your company, we offer a no minimum guarantee and have never missed an approved deadline. At MMP Customs, you will experience the best customer service there is. Let our family outfit yours. Visit mmpcustoms.com. That's mmpcustoms.com.
Yeah. Did you grow up doing jiu-jitsu, or is it something you started later into your adult life?
Yeah, so you have to remember, right? Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu really wasn't on the radar in America until the late '90s. So I remember a brother, a friend of mine, his older brother had like a bootleg copy VHS tape of UFC number one, right? And I remember us, doing something naughty, watching this MMA fight, no gloves, no weight classes, after parents went to bed and we're watching this UFC number one, which I think you'd have to like rent it from Blockbuster or like even probably just buy it and receive it in the mail.
Yeah.
That's how you knew about it. But it wasn't really until the UFC that people knew about Brazilian Jiu Jitsu because, a lot of people don't know this history, but the UFC was actually started by the Gracie family that
Mhm.
played a pivotal role in the rise of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They started UFC 1 to showcase Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's why they did it.
It's interesting.
And so UFC 1 was Royce Gracie just destroying all these guys. And for the first time in history, everyone went, got it. I think we all know what the superior martial art is because this guy that's smaller than everybody just destroyed everybody. Right. And so that's
Mhm.
when it got on the radar in the late 90s.
Yeah, because it's something for me where I'm at a point where I've like I feel like there's multiple reasons why people get into it. One is because people want to get into a martial art, and then the other is because they want to hoist their level of preparedness, right? And
Yeah.
that for
Yeah.
me, I've been wanting to get into a martial art for a while. I haven't yet. I've always kind of stayed in my lane of strength training and endurance training, and I'm at a point now where I have, I've been married for 3 years, had our daughter almost 9 months ago now, and I'm at a point where it's just like, if I'm gonna say that I'm the provider and the protector, how can I say that 100% honestly if I know I'm not prepared, if I haven't prepared myself yet? And that's been the one mindset shift since becoming a father, and as I become, a husband for longer, where it's like, how can I be as prepared as possible for any and every situation? And not only am I prepared, but that preparedness gives you peace of mind in whatever room you walk into. So what got you into it?
Well, I love the phrase that you said because I'm gonna harass you about it. You said sometimes people just get into it to get into it. No, I mean there's an underlying reason, right? So human behavior
Okay.
is I do something for a reason, and most of us we'd all be ignorant if we didn't admit or at least have enough self awareness to realize that most of what you do is in the space of looking good and avoidance of looking bad. It's how you dress. It's why we care about what people think about us. It's the car that we drive. It's how we talk with manners. We are so driven for the acceptance of those around us that it's ridiculous, right? And just knowing that is valuable. Now, why do most people train? Oh, I'll tell you why most people train, so they can say they train, right? Most people train jujitsu because they want to be a hard ass, they want to be
Yeah.
tough, and they want the badge of doing it, which is ironic because that's why most people quit. Because
Interesting.
if I'm there to look good, right? If I'm there because I want to be tough, then what's going to happen is when I get up on the mats and I get destroyed by people smaller than me, not as strong as me, women choking me out, that is a major moment of confrontation with your ego. And you have to confront the issue of, okay, do I want to be good at this and be humble, or do I want to keep pretending? And if you want to keep pretending, then you won't last. Right. And that's why most people quit. If I remember correctly, out of the percentage of individuals that start Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, 80 something percent of them quit. And out of the portion that doesn't quit, less than 1% go on to actually get a black belt. The price is high, and the biggest price is humility. And most people that join martial arts to look tough don't have a lot of humility.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so it forces them to decide. Right. And that's why your dropout rates are typically so high in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Well, and I think that's why jiu-jitsu is so unique, because most people who, like, a lot of the people that I've seen that are like highly skilled in jiu-jitsu are not the biggest guys always. I mean, you'll see a couple guys occasionally, like you watch Jocko Willink and, huge guy, but like you'll watch, like you were talking about at the beginning of the UFC, like how are these 145, 155 pound guys, just kind of toying with guys that are, 40, 50 pounds heavier with them. It's because of the skill of being able to, manipulate the human body that jiu-jitsu teaches. Yeah, man, it's something that you can tell I've been thinking about it for a while.
Man.
I just need to take the step.
I'll consider this podcast recording a success if you start training. We could spend a whole ep just talking about the value add, and the value add is not, the value add is the self-defense portion of it, right? But that's not why most guys train. Like, we all trained for the same reasons to probably start off with. Be tough, be able to beat someone in a fight, maybe some self-defense, etc. Most guys that keep training, that's not why they're training. They're training because they're able to get into flow state. They're able to confront huge amount of emotion and deal with it, right? And by dealing with it in the mats, it allows us to deal with it off the mats 10 times easier. Literally, we're playing a game, right? Like I was explaining this. I did a keynote to a bunch of executives a couple weeks ago, and sometimes it's kind of fun. I try to like trickle in some jujitsu, because I love it so much. And I was explaining it to them this way. I said, we are playing a game where you hurt me, I hurt you, right? And the hurt is sometimes a choke, right? And if I get a blood choke on you and I hold it for more than 10 seconds, we're talking brain damage. 15 seconds or more, you're talking death, right? That's one of the options. Or my other options are blow an MCL, an ACL, dislocate a shoulder, dislocate an arm. That's the game we play. And I don't hold back with you. I am trying to do those things to you 100%. We just have an agreement that if you tap, I promise I'll let go. That's the only rule set. And so because of that, our bodies will get into fight and flight. Mark my word, the first time you get hands on you and you sense that someone is literally trying to hurt you, your body will be flooded with all kinds of emotions: fear, anger, frustration, excitement, like just everything. And you get this massive dump of emotion and you have to deal with it. And over time, you eventually learn how to deal with it, how to be calm in spite of it, how to think in spite of it, how to relax and be okay with whatever's happening versus trying to control it. And so there's just the mental benefit, the psychology of it is probably one of the greatest benefits of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The self-defense side of it, it's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that doesn't provide value, but it's not the main reason why guys keep training.
Well, my action step following this podcast is figuring out the day that I'm going to first class, because I need to.
There you go. Let me know where you live, and I'll look it up. I'll tell you the best schools in your area. So.
Perfect. Right out just north of Atlanta.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I said, we hit on it a little bit, but your affiliation with the Order of Man and Ryan Mickler and what you guys are doing with the Order of Man movement, with the Iron Council community. It's so cool to see just the growth and the accountability component with it, confronting and helping men become better men. And I'd love to dive into a little bit of what that actually means. But I'd love to hear a little bit from you, just like, how'd you get affiliated with Order of Man, and tell me a little bit about the mission behind it.
Yeah, that's funny. How I got affiliated is actually quite hilarious. I had a good friend, Matt Jenkins, invited me to some Facebook group, and I thought it was his, and it was the Order of Man Facebook group. And he invited me, and I thought, it's Matt. He's a buddy of mine. Sure, I'll accept. Right. And that's how it all started. And all I heard was whining, a bunch of dudes whining online, complaining. And I'm like, I got life to live. This is too much noise. So I went there to go unsubscribe from the group. And when I went to go unsubscribe, Ryan Mickler had a post about the podcast. And I thought, oh, this isn't Matt's thing. This is something else. Oh, and there's this podcast that has to go with it. Right. And so then I thought, nah, I'll listen to it in my next workout. And so I hopped on, listened to episode 1 and 2 and 3. And then it didn't take long for me to realize, like, no, this is solid, right? Like there's a massive gap that exists in many people's lives. I think that misses in society today. And Ryan was tackling it. And so it didn't take me long to say, geez, I'm going to sign up and support. And so I joined the Iron Council, which is kind of our mastermind group. And then within a couple months, I was running a team, and a couple months after that, Ryan asked me if I'd be willing to be on the podcast. So I just went all in because I'm really bought into the mission. And so what does that mean, right? What's this mission of Order of Man? And it really comes down to this. It's about helping men. We're trying to be a resource to help men reclaim and step fully into being protectors, providers, and presiders. Our definition of what it means to be a man, and to step into a place of taking ownership of their lives, to take responsibility of their lives, not only to lead themselves, right, but ultimately to serve as a model and lead those in their care, whether it be our kids, our families, our communities, our employees, for that matter. Any area by which we have impact and influence, we should be leading. And we do that primarily for 2 reasons. One, I think it's the right thing to do, right? I don't think there's a fulfillment in life without the service of others. I think that's how we find meaning and purpose in life. But it's also what men do to find fulfillment in their own personal lives. And I strongly believe that when a man is not serving, he is not living up to his potential, and he won't feel like he is either.
Do you think, because I've seen this when in relation to the idea of serving others and being a servant and finding fulfillment in that, do you think that when men start to feel like a sense of anxiety or a sense of like they don't feel like enough of a man, that they try to shift the focus on themselves more rather than the focus on serving? Because I say that to say a lot of guys that I've seen struggle with anxiety and depression tend to put all the focus on how can I get better? How can I heal? And I feel like it just sends them deeper down that dark hole rather than focusing on yourself, which is like what depression I feel like does a lot of the time. My recommendation and my advice has always been, you've been trying really hard to focus on yourself to get yourself out of this rut. Maybe take a couple weeks, or take a month, or take 2 months, and start figuring out how you can forget about the depression you have and start figuring out how you can be a resource and an asset to those around you. Because I feel like once you do that, like you were saying, it gives you purpose because it makes you feel like you're valuable to the world, right?
Yeah, totally. No, I agree. The way I use this is someone that is happy, and I'm not using excitement. Maybe a more proper term would be joy or peace, right? So someone that is joyful and is at peace, I think there's 3 things in play. One, they have a healthy relationship with the past, period. Not my past, not my glorious, no, your past, everyone's past, which means that what? That if I've made mistakes, if I've done wrong, I've cleaned it up. I've corrected it the best I could. Or I learned the lesson that there was to be learned, right? So 1, I have a healthy relationship with the past. Number 2, I have hope for the future, right? I have to see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? There has to be something that's where the anxiety is an issue, right? Is because we're dreading about all the things that could go wrong, right? So someone that's peaceful and joyful are also operating in this space of like hope for the future, right? And then the last, I think, which is most critical, is that they're present right now in this moment. And I think that's where it aligns a lot with what you're saying, because to be present in the moment means what? It means action. It means no more, oh, I'm depressed and anxiety. Why? Oh, what does it mean? It's just like, dude, what are you doing right now? Right? Taking action and living in the moment and being present. And I think when we do those 3 things, other things just kind of naturally align.
Yeah. So my mission statement behind Take a Step is to redefine the way young men view success by shifting their focus from the destination to the process. So I feel like people that are in
Move
that
to
state
action.
are so focused on the destination to where you get the paralysis by analysis. You get the you start thinking and analyzing your way into why that seems so far away and why it's so hard for me to do something right now to get, like, it just seems so out of alignment. But if my focus is on the steps I'm taking on a daily basis and I can find my fulfillment in those steps, then not only does that give me more fulfillment because it makes me feel like I'm doing something, makes me feel like I'm doing something that I enjoy, but it also generates results much quicker because I'm perfecting the steps, the action steps that are going to get me to that destination.
Yeah, totally. I use this analogy to kind of drive your thought home is first off, I remember years ago, I used this example. In fact, I talked about this earlier today on another podcast, which is kind of funny. But it was a group of men, roughly 120 guys. And I asked the question, who, raise of hand, believes that if their spouse would only show up differently in their marriage would be happier? How many hands do you think went up? All of them. Every hand. Absolutely. Right? How many people listening goes, oh, if your boss would only XYZ, your job would be better? Most hands would go up. By default, we operate in the space of once I have, then I will take action and then I will be happy. I will be fulfilled. I will be. But who's in charge of the have? Not me, not you. In fact, in those examples, I've relinquished that power over to who? My boss, my spouse, everybody else. So I'm going to sit back, wait and hope that someday I get what I need to get. And when I get that, then I'll show up great. And then I'll be happy and fulfilled. And this is where sometimes I get, a little cautious sometimes around a lot of goal setting because there's an element of that in goals. Right? Oh, Josh, I have this great goal, this achievement I want to achieve. And there's this loaded meaning behind it. Oh, and when I do what do you think is going to happen? Right? Once you run a marathon, what then? Then you'll be confident about your body. Then you'll be respected by people. Then people think more highly of you. So you're going to wait until now and then for maybe that to happen. It's very interesting. Most goal setting isn't about the results of the goal. It's kind of an undertone of what that goal means about themselves, which is a mindset. And so I like to operate in the space of be, do, and have. Who do you need to be right now, this very moment? Not tomorrow, not later today, right now. That's who you are being. And that drives action. And then results will come. And that's ultimately like how I like to paraphrase living in the present. It's really about who you are being as a.
Yeah, there's a quote by the author Dallas Willard. It says the most important thing in this life is who you're becoming. So many people want to know what I'm going to do. So many people want to know what they're going to do in 5 years. Most people should focus on who they're going to become in 5 years.
Yeah.
So
the best way to dictate. Yeah. And if you don't mind me interrupting, the best way to dictate who you're going to become in 5 years is be that person right now. Why wait 5 years? Are you joking? Like, why? Why wait? Just be it right now in spite of the current circumstances you have. Just be it.
Yeah. Like if you were living the desired future you have for yourself 5 or 10 years down the road, what kind of things is that? What's that person doing when they wake up in the morning? What's that person doing when they show up to the office? Why would you be anyone any different right now?
Exactly. And tomorrow? What's tomorrow? A word in a book that defines something that doesn't yet exist. So you're going to bet on tomorrow? Man, maybe bet on the moment, right? Bet on being that person today. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So with a lot of the stuff you guys do through Order of Man, it's all about, obviously, like you talked about, building man to be the protector, provider, and presider, right? So with on the concept of what it means to be a man, like, what do you think in the world we live in today? Like, what do you think are some of the misconceptions? I'm sure you have a list of them, but like, what are some of the top misconceptions that especially in the personal development industry,
Yeah.
it's so easy to go down a rabbit trail of false identities. But from your experience, what are some of those misconceptions?
Well, I think the biggest is that masculinity is toxic or somehow outdated. Um, and that it, you don't hear people say it this way, but I feel like it's a misconception anyway, that there is no such thing, that the uniqueness of what it means biologically to be a man is made up. And that most importantly, the differences between men and female are not amazing and perfect and are the yin and yang of parenting and the yin and yang of great relationships. And I think we've demonized the differences when we should be celebrating the differences. I think we look at masculinity and we, like most areas of life, right? We stereotype and we put these blanketed meaning around things, right? So we get to explain it. When reality, the issue at hand in society, in my opinion, is a lack of masculinity in the home. I mean, if we look at Dr. Warren Farrell's book, The Boy Crisis, man, it will rock your world. I mean, anybody that has a son and I find out they're having a boy, I'm like, you have to read this book. Because we have a boy crisis, and that boy crisis translation is a dad not in a home crisis, or a dad in the home that is not stepping into his masculinity crisis. That is the issue in society today, in my opinion. It is the biggest problem. And so we
So
need
what happens
to
when we lose
embrace
that?
it. What you end up with a bunch of nice guys, a lot of passive aggressive boys that are flippant, that are trying to figure out their meaning, their place in the world, meanwhile being demonized by society. I mean, really, where do boys go? Right? You know, shut up, act like a girl, listen like a girl, don't be assertive, don't be aggressive, don't step into your masculinity. Where does a boy go with that? And statistically, they end up on pills is where they end up on, right? And probably end up shooting up schools and not graduating high school and not going to college and living at home until they're 30. That's what happens because they lacked that role model in their home. Meanwhile, society currently today will celebrate it, thinking that they're being nice little boys, when in reality, it's the opposite of what should be happening, in my opinion, of course.
No, I mean, I think we share a like-minded opinion on that 100%. Where it's like, if you take away what is natural, like it's how, like in my belief system, it is how God uniquely designed a man and a woman. He designed a woman with specific characteristics, and he designed a man with specific characteristics. And you know, when you tell a young boy that that they're not doing the right thing when they want to, you know, go play in the dirt, when they want to be aggressive with one another, when they you know get in fights because of things that they were playing over, like that is natural. And not to say there aren't ways to hone that in, because there definitely are, because it's easy if you just let a boy run rampant and do whatever he wants with no regulation. That's the other side of the equation. But what we're talking about is demonizing those characteristics. And once you do that, that's when they have, like, where, like you said, where do they go? Where's their identity if they don't have their masculinity that God gave them?
Yeah, and they have it whether you like it or not, right? They're going to have it. And it's ironic too. It's like, you know, one of the best ways for you and I to learn is to embrace the challenge and the difficulty. Well, then that means we can't rescue people. Like, to your point, right? If boys are struggling and there's a conflict, they need to be able to address the conflict. There's not growth without addressing it. If we push it off and pretend it doesn't there, then it's going to raise its ugly head eventually, right? And so we need to embrace the difficulty, and boys do that really well.
Yeah, definitely. So I love talking about it. What are some practical ways that we can actually go about trying to make a difference when it comes to that?
I mean, as society as a whole.
Yeah, or just like whether
or
if it's
in our
in our local environment, wherever it may be, because
Got it.
I feel like I have conversations every day, every week about the same things where it's you surround yourself with like-minded people, you agree with each other and feed off each other, but like, what are we actually doing about it?
Yeah.
What are some practical ways that we can take the insights that we have that we believe is right, that we believe are right, and actually do something about it?
Yeah. So I do a lot of leadership development, and it's the same principle, by the way, right? Because what causes change and how we support people is how we cause change and support people, period. It doesn't matter if it's masculinity or if it's about,
Yeah.
teaching our young daughters to be more feminine, right? It's no different. And the principle is modeling. So we have to model it. Which says in another way that, and I don't want to downplay our desire to influence others, right? But we have to get our crap together first, right? And we have to be showing up powerfully in our own lives, so we're a model to others. I mean, the reality of it is, here's the reality. Most people don't want your advice. They really don't. Most people don't want to be changed. They don't want to be argued. And in most cases, if I argue with you and I give you all the best statistics ever known to man, what's the probability of you going, oh, you know what, Kipp, you're right. I'm wrong. I'm going to change my mind. No. What do? You double down and you argue. Why? Because you need to protect your ego. Most people don't change out of being preached at and or being convinced. They don't. You know what causes change is autonomy, agency, and freedom. Them deciding on their terms that this I need to or I want to make a change. And by the way, that's kind of a godly principle. It's actually through agency we evolve and grow. So how is it? How is it that I create opportunity for others to choose? You model it. You model it damn well. You show up powerfully, you love those around, and you also don't hide into, I'm not saying that you're saying this, but we also don't hide in our little clique group, right? Where we're an echo chamber. No. You get involved in school. You get involved in other groups. You speak up when you should speak up, and you model it, what it looks like to be a masculine, righteous man.
Yeah.
You do that,
And I think that
people will be drawn to you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like it's in kind of like speaking to myself right now, like it is comfortable to stay in those groups of people that agree and are like-minded with you, right? That's what that's where like in going back to what you were saying earlier about what it means to be a man, it's not choosing what's comfortable. It's choosing what's difficult, which is another, principles throughout scripture about that as well. But I think we had this like innate nature and to run with people who share similar mindsets. And I think we definitely need those people because that we sharpen one another 100%. But then how are you actually taking that and going out and making a difference with that? And like you said, that's actually taking and applying what you pick up on from those groups so that you can model that for the rest of the world. I'm friends with a bunch of people who are believers, and I think I'm a believer as well, but I think in the Christian community there's this demonization of what it looks like to live a successful life, quote unquote. And I think going on with what you're saying, something that I've said is, how are we have to, there have to be more, by the world standards, successful people who are believers as well, to give younger people of this generation a life to model after. Like if you're not living a desirable life, then why would somebody want to model after the life you're living? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. I know what you mean. In fact, I'll share my apology if I swear too much. Is that a problem?
No, no,
Okay.
You're fine.
Okay. I have a tendency to swear a little too much. Anyhow, I'll share this story. It's a perfect example. So it was a couple years ago. I'm highly effective at what I do. I run a really tight day, great at what I do. And I don't say this from like an arrogant perspective, but I'm good at what I do. I have a lot of confidence in what I do and I do it well, and I'll always find a way. Okay. And but I carry that home sometimes, right? And I carry it home and I get things done, right? I'm about Mr. Get Things Done. Well, my role isn't just an owner of a home. That's the get things done. But if I wear the hat of dad, how does getting things done benefit being dad? It may not actually. I might undermine my ability to be a really effective father because I'm so focused on getting things done. And one time my wife asked me, she says, "Hey, you know what, Kipp?" She's like, "You can have all this success in life. You can be highly productive. You can do all those things." She says, "But if you're doing it like an asshole, none of your kids will want to follow you." And that's, I take that as not just being an asshole to people, but are we happy? Right? Because that's the other element, right? We double down, we go David Goggins, Jocko approach to life, everything's so damn serious. And then we feel great in our little echo chamber. People look over at us and go, "Well, that guy looks miserable. Why would I ever want to be like him?" Right? Like he's not enjoying it. So part of it is success of life, right? Are we accomplished? Are we learning and are growing? But it's also, who are we being? Are we happy? Do we feel fulfilled? Are we cheerful? Are we fun to be around? If you're not fun to be around, you can have all the knowledge you want, but your influence is non-existent, right? No one's going to want to listen to your advice if you're a miserable person to be around.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's a great perspective to have on, if we want to essentially be the change, right? If you want to see a change, be the change. So I want to talk a little bit more on your path to leadership coaching, because I know you do a lot in that space, both, with your full-time work, doing, leadership coaching on the side, as well as what you do with the Iron Council. How, obviously that didn't happen overnight. Like you didn't just all of a sudden wake up one day and you're now qualified to help.
I got a certificate. So, I'm ready to tell people how to be a leader. Yeah.
Yeah. So what, I mean, tell me a little bit about your path that gave you, kind of equipped you with the experience and knowledge and ability to help leaders become better leaders.
Yeah. I mean, first off, I was lucky to have some good leaders in my life. Literally, and not so much leadership opportunities like in high school and stuff, right? But once I went to college, I within a year of college, I ended up landing a job as a software engineer. And the boss that I had back then, when we did something, he would be like, "Hey, I want you to present this to the executive team." I'm lonely little brand new software developer. What? He was constantly looking for opportunities for me to level up. And he would do that all the time. And it wasn't long before I had a software development team. I don't even have a computer science degree yet. I'm still in school, right? And here I am running a software development team. And then shortly after that, I ended up running my own business, right? Well, you kind of have to start figuring out leadership, right? When you're hiring employees and you want to keep them around, and what's effective and what's not effective. But probably in the space of consulting, I learned a lot around influence, about my ability to influence a customer and be in a position where we establish a strong relationship. How do I express confidence in a way, but humility at the same exact time? Like I just was lucky enough to get a lot of these reps. And so when I finally stepped into this role where someone said, "Hey, Kipp, I need you to help other people be better leaders," full disclosure, I was like, "Oh man, I don't know if I know how to do that." But it didn't take long for me to go, "Well, no, I've done it. I just didn't get trained on it. And I've learned a lot of these mistakes on my own. Let me build a framework and a process around ultimately what this looks like." And so, and then I've just jumped head deep into everything around this concept, right? And it's such a profound concept. In fact, what I really love about it is I don't think there's like leaders, like people that want to be leaders, and then there's people that don't. I don't see it that way. This is how I see the natural progression of man is eventually at one point, hopefully all of us start mastering self, right? And we start leading ourselves, being intentional, being self-aware around the impact that we have around others, shoring up our shortcomings. developing our talents and identifying what those talents are. Like that's self-leadership, right? And then the next natural progression is leadership. That's the calling. That's what it means to be human. I think personally that there's only one area of fulfillment in life ultimately, and it is in the service of your fellow men. And that's called leadership. So how do you do that in a way that's impactful and meaningful, not controlling? And so it's the natural order, self-leadership to leadership, and I feel like those principles of leadership are transcendent and should be applicable to everybody.
No. So what on that topic, like what do you think are some of those qualities? Like what are those qualities that make a leader effective?
Yeah. So the number one quality is, and we teased this already. So the number one quality is understanding that you don't disrupt choice. A good leader does not disrupt choice. And they don't. Why? Because without choice, there's not growth. So we're getting a little deep. So let me explain. Okay. So I use this analogy of how most people will react when they don't have the necessary skills of leadership. They will operate in one of two areas. They will act as a persecutor or a rescuer. Okay. Now, how old's your daughter?
Almost 9 months.
9 months. Okay. We're not to either one of those styles yet, but they will.
I do. So I lead
word.
a great example. I lead a small group of high school students that are sophomores in high school.
Okay. Perfect. So you've defined what winning is for that small group of sophomores, right? Like there's an established expectations around performance. Is that fair? Can you say yes to that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
When that performance is not met, when they're not doing what they're supposed to do, what is your natural tendency?
Natural tendency is to get frustrated with them on why they're taking a certain action that they shouldn't be taking.
Yeah. And we call that persecution because it feels like persecution. You may not feel like you're persecuting, but they feel it. Right. And so a natural tendency of a persecutor is, hey, moron, we've talked about this. You're not doing it. And the problem is where? With the person. It's not with me. It's not with the process. It's not with anything else. The person's the problem. So I bring the hammer. I raise my voice. I get frustrated. I do a speech, right? I punish. In corporate America, we put people on pips. We do all these things because we believe one fundamental truth. And it's not true, by the way, that the person's the problem. And so we seek to control them through manipulation, through punishment, through shame. And here's the crazy part. It works. It absolutely works. Those people will adjust. They'll do what you told them to do. But is your relationship better? Is the influence better? And most importantly, the person made the pivots and adjustments through what avenue? Through fear, uncertainty, shame, very ungodly approach, right? To get action. The opposite of a persecutor, there are nice people. They will go, oh, these sophomores, they're making mistakes. Oh, they're just kids. That's okay. I won't hold them accountable. They're fine. I'll buy candy for them all, right? Like they're the rescue. They rescue them. Oh, there's a difficulty. This is little Timmy in the backyard fighting with the neighbor kid, and mom and dad swoop in and save and resolve the issue. Because they don't want Timmy. They don't want the employee. They don't want the individuals to feel uncomfortable. So they rescue them. And by the way, a little sick and twisted, but it's insightful to understand human behavior is why do they do that? Most rescuers rescue because it validates their importance of why they're there. And so they keep rescuing people from hardship. Both scenarios, rescuer and persecutor, they're not about the person growing. The controller, the persecutor is about controlling the individual for an outcome, not growing the sophomore into, a well-adjusted man, right? The rescuer is not about growing the individual either. They're about resolving the immediate conflict of the problem. And thus, those two leaders perpetuate a victim mindset for those people that they serve. They're sitting back, waiting and hoping to be told what to do, right? To avoid persecution or to be saved from someone. And they lack choice, self-directed in their path of growth. So the fundamental principle of an amazing leader is to understand the best way for me to serve you as an individual is for me to create the opportunities for choice. And I invite you, hey, do you want to do what's necessary to win in this role? If you are, I'm all about it and I'll back you up. If you're not willing to make that commitment, that's okay too, but I can't have you in this seat, right? This role is not for you. And that's it. And then here's the kicker. When things go south, I don't assume you're a problem. When things go south, I go, what are the mindsets that would be an issue? What systems and processes might be lacking? What am I doing as a leader where I didn't clarify the expectation? I take ownership and I don't blame you as an individual. And the reason why I don't do that is because that's an easy button, right? If we assume people are the problem, then we'll never support the person in growth. But if we self-evaluate, we're self-aware, and we look at what's supporting, then we put ourselves in a position to actually help someone grow. One last quick little analogy. Use kids in their room, right? Room is dirty. Dad comes in, yells, I told you guys a number of times before, clean your room, blah, 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 right? Room gets clean, I persecute. Mom, on the other hand, she might come in and just clean the room for him. She rescues. My focus and her focus was the same exact focus, the room. A good parent and a good leader, their focus, the person, right? If I'm pushing my kids about the room, I'm not growing kids. I'm cleaning a room. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it reminds me of when organizations, especially in the corporate world, get so fixated on the company's targets and the company's goals rather than developing the people that they hired. Right? Like I think that's a natural tendency, especially because I've most of my professional career has been in the sales world. So say like you have your KPIs,
quota.
You have your targets. Yeah, everything's got to line up to hit. And I feel like companies where they fail is trying to help the employees see why them helping the company get to their goals helps them achieve their goals, rather than helping the employee see how their goals are in line with the company's success, how their fulfillment's in line with because the focus needs to be on the employee, the people. Very similar to the child and the room. That's a great perspective to view leading somebody towards an end goal. This is the way I've always looked at it, and I want to hear your perspective on this. I've always heard the notion that the number one thing that inspires change is pain or fear of future pain. And when I the way that I've kind of gone about it or heard about it and tried to apply a little bit is helping somebody to see how the current actions that they're taking lead to a state of pain. And there's a great quote that I love, and I want to hear your thoughts on this quote. It's when the fear of staying the same outweighs the fear of change, that's when growth begins. When the fear of staying the same outweighs the fear of change, that's where growth begins. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I get the general sentiment. Most people that hear that phrase, they think, oh, got it. So I need to create artificial pain for him. Right. And that's still a form of control manipulation. So I would say guiding people on helping them understand the impact of their actions so they can make a conscious choice of whether they want to make a change or not. That is lasting. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's artificial, right? And I understand the sentiment around pain causing change, and maybe this is just a play on words, right? But I like the idea that it's awareness of impact causes change. Now that might generate pain for you, but I think most of us operate from the perspective is we don't realize our potential impact on others. And if we did, holy shit, we would show up drastically different than we do. If you realized how often you're probably messing up your kids, you would be 100% better parent. If you realized what battles other people are fighting in their own heads and how you show up affecting them in a really negative way, you would probably you'd show much more grace towards other individuals. So I like impact because it's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can see it as a positive thing to cause action, or it might drive me to cause action because the impact could be negative. But I love that phrase instead. But I get
the deeper we dive into it, like to a lot of people, it might sound like overkill. Like why are you why are you over indexing on what the verbiage is? For me, I'm a big believer on the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So if my focus is on impact in how I'm being impactful on my employees, I'm going to take that same focus into how I lead my children, into how I lead my friends, into how I lead my community. So like, I think like that is why it's so important, because we're not just talking about how, your son keeping their room clean. We're not just talking about your sales rep hitting their sales quota, but it's every single thing you do is going to be navigated with the exact same approach based on how you navigate one situation and how you lead others.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah. So you said something earlier when you were stepping into this world of leadership coaching, of starting to lead other leaders. You said you didn't really feel like you were capable of it yet. You haven't really done it enough, or the reason I say that is because I think there's a lot of people that do not feel like they are qualified to do things that I think that they should be taking action on. It's the idea of imposter syndrome, right? Like I don't feel like I'm capable or qualified of doing it yet. When if you realize like the fact that you have that thought in the first place puts you at a very high level, because it tells me that you're extremely self-aware, which I think is a quality that's drastically lacking in the world, especially in men today. So from your perspective, like when do you think someone would be equipped to be a leader?
When they're willing to serve. I mean, let's think about it, right? Like, who's that about? I'm not ready. Oh, got it. So you're more concerned about how you'll be perceived than your willingness to help others.
That's good. Yeah.
Right. And so when you're ready to say kind of a little bit of F it, right? Like, maybe I don't have the reps, but I know what I'm talking about is right. I know what I'm talking about is valuable. I know it would make a difference. Then I'm ready. Right? Because it's not about how I look. It's not about, propping myself up, right? It's about ultimately something greater, which is not the room, right? But the kid, the employee. It's about service of them, helping them, create opportunities for them. If that's true, that it's true, whether I'm ready or not. Right. And then I use what I have to serve them the best I can. And, is it ideal? Is it perfect? No, probably, grow and make it better over time. But when the mindset and the intention is pure, you're ready. And by the way, when your mindset and intention is not pure, step down. Like this is why we have so many problems in corporate America today, is because you have people in a position of authority that should not be, because their intention is not what's best for people. Their intention is not what's even long-term success for the org. Their intention is, kind of biblical term here, but like unrighteous dominion, and prop themselves up to use their authority unrighteously. That is the natural dispensation of almost all people. And most people, when in a position of authority, will practice it unrighteously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of characteristics of ego on the negative side of leadership. When you talk about unrighteous dominion, when you talk about how I'm going, like not wanting to lead because I don't feel qualified yet because I feel like I'm going to be perceived in a certain way that I don't want to, like that is ego speaking. When you're talking about the rescuer, they want to feel like they are rescuing them because it boosts their ego. What was the other? There was the rescuer and what was the other one? And the persecutor. It makes them feel like they have the power. It's all ego. So like, I think everything I've heard you talk about on the flaws of leadership in the world today, in my opinion, stems from having an ego. And ego is a concept I love talking about because that is my background in my past. Like, and and not to say that I've like overcome it in any way, but like ego is something that is kept me from taking actions. It has caused me to take the wrong actions, especially when I've been in leadership positions and in the world of athletics and then post college as well. But I think ego just causes so many issues that we don't see. We just see ego as pride, right, on at the base level. But what are the greater implications of the ego and how you lead others, and or how you choose not to lead others? It's just I love that concept.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And a lot of this is stemmed from a lack of self-awareness and emotional intelligence, right? So we just, well, it's how I feel. You're right. And they don't even understand that it's rooted in that ego. And it's kind of funny too, to your point, you kind of alluded to this, but like when we're overly concerned about your ego, you're not concerned about anybody else. And it's not just like, oh, it's just me. No, you're affecting people. Impact is negative, right? Like, especially in the space of employment, right? Most people's suffering in life is at the hands of their job. That's in your hands as a leader, right? You don't think that affects Bob when he goes home to his wife and kids because you're an asshole at work? Oh man, it absolutely does. And shame on any of us in a leadership role that isn't taking on that mantle fully, right? And we think that, oh, we're just trying to get the job done. Oh man, we misunderstand how much our role is impacting other people.
Well, one question I want to have, I love asking as we kind of cap off the episode, is in line with a lot of what my messaging is targeted to through Take a Step, which is, the person that is stuck in kind of the spinning the tires, that's kind of caught in complacency, that is struggling to take action on doing something that will actually bring real fulfillment for them in their life. Because we're all told, like, we live in a generation today where we're told that there's one way to do something, and I feel like we're starting to kind of get out of that with the glorification of entrepreneurship and creating your own path. But I feel like for so long people were told, you go to high school, get your diploma, go to college, get your degree, find an entry-level job, work your way up in corporate America, and then, build your 401k, invest your money, and then retire when you're 65 years old and live happily ever after. But at the end of the day, there's so many people that live that life and spend 22 to 65 hating Monday through Friday, and then maybe finding a little satisfaction on Saturday and Sunday. And maybe with their 21 days of paid vacation, they'll have fun with that. But for the rest of the time throughout the year, they're spending their time working for a paycheck and just being complacent with their life. So with that said, like, how can somebody who's in those shoes, who feels stuck, who's either, scared to take the action, they're going through paralysis by analysis, how can someone take that first step towards, taking more purposeful action every single day?
Yeah, this just dawned on me. So we'll see how this pans
please.
out. I would self-evaluate the areas of your life where you feel like you're not making a choice, that you're doing this on behalf of, or to avoid conflict, or I'm doing this so my spouse doesn't get mad at me. I'm doing this so my boss doesn't, but you're not, it's not like you're not consciously saying, this is the thing I should be doing. How much of that is happening in your life? And I would self-evaluate and move to a life of choice, not a life of requirement that other people are choosing. And it's crazy if we start looking at the behaviors and the things that we do constantly that are not in our realm of choice, right? We feel obligated. I have to do this.
Yeah.
If I don't, then this. And guess who's in control in that world? Everyone but you. And mark my word, there's covert contracts all over the place. Fine. I'll do this that Josh wants me to. I'll do this that Brandon wants me to. I'll do this with these people in hopes that they will whatever. And it's unspoken. And your upsets are going to be all over the place because you're just being acted upon by everybody. So I would get really clear. Where are you consciously making a choice? And challenge yourself that if you're doing something that you don't like, you're not bought into, maybe don't do it. Or say, hey, no, actually, I'm not going to. Or maybe I need to understand more so I can get behind it. And start stepping into a life of empowerment and choice, not a world controlled by everybody else. So that's number one. And then number two, I would start choosing and acting, which is a great mantra, right? Take a step. I've always used this analogy that my natural tendency is to overplan, overanalyze, overplan. I just know that about myself. Other people, Ryan and I joke around that he acts, right? And he'll burn down the forest in his quest of action, right? So both can be dangerous, right? But for me, I also think a lot of this has to do with this. My last thought is let go of the expectations of the way it should be. That's what stops us from taking action sometimes and giving up on the action that we take, is because we'll take action and we thought, okay, it should look like this. And then guess what? It's 10 times harder. It's more difficult. It's miserable. It looks different. Like, let go of what you think it should be and focus on just taking the next step, knowing that it may not be what you think it will. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And don't make it wrong.
So the idea of the way it should be is in our head because it was already done that way by someone else, right?
Totally.
And if we are going to base the actions that we take on the actions that someone else took, it completely takes away our agency. It takes away our own dominion, our own ability to take ownership of the future because it's dictated by the life that someone else lived.
And as you summit, right, as we try to summit the mountain, it's not until you get past the first ridge that you realize, like, oh, shoot, I need to cut back down this way, or I need to change my path. There was no way of knowing the path until you get to the first ridge. And then the irony is, by going to the summit or the false ridge, guess what you learn? Probably some awesome, valuable thing that you would have never known. And that might change the direction of what summit you go to. Right? So a lot of it is about embracing what is, taking action. Don't get me wrong, but don't get so wrapped up into, well, I'll be happy when I summit. No, enjoy the hike and realize that it's going to be more difficult. And there might be ridges and vistas that you never knew were available to you until you started taking action.
Yeah. Find fulfillment in the process. I love it.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this conversation tremendously, and I appreciate you jumping on. Where can people follow along with what you're doing? And if people want to stay in touch and just kind of soak up the wealth of knowledge that you have to share, where can they follow you?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on social media, primarily Instagram. So if people want to follow me there, it's Kipp Sorensen, KippSorensen. And then that same exact spelling, kippsorensen.com, is my website, to learn more about some of the coaching and stuff that we do.
Awesome. Well, Kipp, I appreciate the time today. It's been a pleasure. I hope you've taken as much away from it as I have.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It was great.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Take a Step podcast. If you like this episode, guys, please leave a rating or review on whichever platform you're listening. And always remember, no matter where you are in your growth journey, every mile begins with a step. We'll talk to you in the next episode.